Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SALT Talks. My name is John Darcy. I'm the managing director of SALT, which is a global thought leadership forum at the intersection of finance, technology, and public policy. SALT Talks are a series of digital interviews that we launched during this work from home period with leading investors, creators, and thinkers. And what we're trying to do with SALT Talks is replicate the experience that we provided our SALT conference series, which is to provide our audience a window into the mind of subject matter experts, as well as provide a platform for what we think are big ideas that are shaping the future. And this is going to be the third episode in a special series that we've launched with SALT Talks called The Voice of Cannabis, where we bring together leaders and innovators from the front lines of the cannabis industry to talk about cannabis politics, regulation, and business. Today's episode is focused on cannabis entering mainstream sports, and it's in partnership with Fourth Wall Advisory, a strategic marketing advisory firm largely focused on the cannabis industry, along with Canopy Growth Corporation, a leading international cannabis company. Hosting today's talk, as you've seen in previous Voice of Cannabis SALT Talks, is Jason Wilson, who is a principal at Fourth Wall Advisory and a cannabis banking expert. Jason has more than 15 years of experience in asset management, finance, and the structured product space, and a track record of bringing hard-to-access asset classes to market. He's been working in connection with the legal cannabis industry for the past decade. And joining Jason for today's SALT Talk is Michael Camilleri, who's a former NHL player and the co-founder and CEO of BioSteel. And Michael will offer some perspectives on how cannabis is entering the mainstream sports world and how it can be used for a variety of different reasons to improve the livelihoods of professional athletes. A reminder, if you have any questions for Jason or Michael during today's talk, you can enter them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your video screen. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason for the interview.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the intro. And thanks, Mike, for joining us today. And it's great to have you on the panel. It's to have both that pro athlete experience and to be able to transition that into a very successful, a drinking company in the sports space. It's a great opportunity to be able to sit with you. Can we kind of start things off with really looking at or talking about your experience as a professional hockey player? I mean, 15 years, that's quite the run. How is that really tied into you personally, the CBD space, and BioSteel?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me and for the nice introduction. For me, yeah, I played 15 years in the NHL, and it was certainly a dream come true for me to get to experience my sport at that level. Really, if we're going to enter the conversation about BioSteel and CBD, it all dates back to kind of the genesis of our company and why we started BioSteel, which was that while everyone sees the glitz and the glamour of pro sports, which it certainly is, there's other challenges that come with it, like other people face in their life with regards to scheduling and sleep and flying at 2 a.m. to other cities in different time zones and trying to rest and recover. And it's there's definitely high stress and demand on the job. So inevitably you see guys resort to stimulants or suppressors to get up or get down to perform or to rest. And for us, we just wanted to create a healthier way or a healthier alternative to what was out there. That was kind of the genesis of the company. And then the CBD entree kind of worked the same way. We can elaborate on all of that, but I'm sure you'll ask me more questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because, cannabis and CBD, and whether CBD is hemp derived or comes from, call it marijuana, if you will. None of the pro leagues have really gotten behind, legalizing it or allowing it. I know the NHL is a little bit more lenient, but, still not officially approved. The NBA, the NFL, again, high impact sports like hockey, they've taken a much stricter stance on the whole space. What took you down the path to CBD personally as a hockey player? Like, what was that catalyst for you?
Yeah, there's a somewhat compelling story that goes with that, and again, I'll date it back to the genesis of our company, which was our story, which was I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at 11 years old, so certainly more sensitive to inflammation and what I consume than maybe the general population. And then through my journey through pro athletics, kind of committed some resources to the smartest minds, whether it be strength, nutrition, and heard a common theme, which was just how careful I had to be about what I was putting in my body and how it was going to affect me as a whole, as a person, and to stay away from the sports drinks with sugars and artificial food colorings and dyes and things like that. As far as hydration, then it was supplementation, how careful you had to be, and then the league and the leagues put in drug testing protocols, so you had to be sure that the companies could provide proper drug testing documentation. So it became a real challenge to provide myself with product that I thought was going to help me live a healthier life. And so John and I, was a best friend since we were 7 years old. We met on a soccer field. He grew up in the locker rooms with me, and one summer we set out to start a company that would kind of answer some of those needs in the marketplace, and that we would have a brand that would represent the highest quality ingredients and would be safe and drug tested for athletes, general population. And so that was kind of the genesis. It came out of a need state from the locker room, and then the masses would appreciate that. And that's how we started. CBD was much the same. I was playing in Edmonton at the end of my career, and had an injury in my upper back and my spine that was really, really sore. And some of the younger guys on the team had suggested to me that maybe I try cannabis. I'd never been a cannabis user, but that said that CBD would be something that might help me. So at that time, from a business standpoint, BioSteel, we had been taking some meetings from some cannabis companies that were interested in doing something with CBD in our company. And from a personal standpoint, I wanted something that was going to help me feel better. So I went to the team doctor and asked if I could use CBD, and ended up with a CBD prescription and started using it, and became sorry, my partner's yelling in the other room. I don't know if you guys could pick up on that. I'm getting distracted. John, keep it down. So started using CBD as a user, and really found the benefits for me personally as far as its anti-inflammatory benefits and feeling better. So that ended up leading to a 1-year due diligence negotiation period with Canopy Growth, and ultimately led us to where we are today.
So I'm assuming that you see this really, you've obviously decided with Canopy to launch a CBD infused sports drink. And do you see that fitting into recovery? Do you see that being for pain management? How do you see that rolling out, especially with the leagues and their stance on it?
We have the ability, and great partnership with Canopy, obviously, to the resources to make some incredible products. We have a strategy that can target some different need states for CBD use for athletes and for people in general that are interested in health and wellness. At the right time, I mean, we'll release those. I mean, from a business standpoint, right now our focus is on U.S. expansion and brand awareness with regards to our hydration product that isn't CBD. But yes, we have the ability to skew out into that CBD, that same product with CBD infused at the right time.
So how this connection with Canopy, has that been helpful or to some degree harmful? I mean, cannabis has a stigma attached to it, CBD or otherwise. And so how has that affected, your signing endorsements with professional athletes?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and one that comes up often. In fact, it's been all positive. So what I can tell you that CBD use within the locker room, the stigma is gone. There is no stigma. It's so widely used and accepted within the locker room. I mean, if you think about it as an alternative to what was being used prior, whether it be opioids or other dangerous medicines that guys use to manage pain or inflammation. So they're very much welcoming the CBD conversation. We're playing by the rules like everybody else. So we will wait for legislation and for leagues to make things permissible, and for the certification bodies to allow it, like NSF and things of that nature. So our athletes are all protected that way. But if anything, they're encouraged about the partnership, and it's been a positive reaction from all of them.
And I guess the proof is really in the pudding. If I look over your back shoulder there, obviously, congratulations on signing Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that must have been quite the given everything that's going on after a Super Bowl victory and the craziness of 2020. How did that all come to fruition? How did you manage to get that endorsement?
Yeah, thank you. We're really excited to have Patrick as part of the team. Like all of our endorsements, one of the things, authenticity is the big buzzword now, but we like to be thinking we were using it 10 years ago. But really what ends up happening is they're users of the product. They come to us, or their representation comes to us and says, hey, my athlete uses your product, and would you be interested in doing a deal? And if a deal makes sense, we'll do something that's fair for everybody. And so with Patrick, that's what happened. Him and his strength team out in Fort Worth, Texas, were using the products for 4 or 5 years, and I ended up jumping on a plane and going out there to train with them. Actually, I saw it firsthand. Just wanted to see what the BioSteel relationship really was for him. So saw him walk in first thing in the morning and go to his BioSteel, and saw him hydrate with his BioSteel. And I ended up jumping in a workout with him and 5 other NFL guys getting ready for training camp. So I think I was a year and a half out of hockey at the time. So it wasn't the easiest to get through the workout. I thankfully didn't get sick. We were doing sled pulls. Bobby Stroop is his trainer out in Texas, and Bobby had us doing sled pulls, pretty heavy weights for those boys. But I think I got through the workout, so maybe earned some respect there. And then hung out with him and Des Bryant a little bit, who used to be a BioSteel endorsed athlete, and then went over to the indoor field with them when they were throwing balls and passes. So really got to see it firsthand, how it fit into Patrick's life. And then from there, it was a pretty organic relationship that we were just able to formalize. So really happy to have him. And that's really been the formula for us for all our endorsements is people who really are a fan of the product, and it speaks for itself.
Okay, come on. Truth or rumor? I heard that the whole deal came down with you having to cover Des Bryant.
Oh man. So I got some footage in my cell phone. It's the story I told when I got back to the office was that Patrick was trying to throw a pass to Des, and I was covering him, and he couldn't get the ball to him. And I got just enough footage so that you can see there's Des, you can see there's Patrick, and no one can say that it wasn't true. So I'm not going to come out and say that it was true, but there's no footage that says it wasn't true. How about that?
Fair enough. Yeah. So CBD cannabis makes a ton of sense in high impact sports. Obviously NHL, NFL. Concussion, symptoms and whatnot. I know that Canopy Growth is working on, research on whether or not CBD or other cannabinoids can be helpful in recovery from concussions. But how about women's sports as well? I mean, golf, what have you? What outside of the high impact sports, where are you really seeing a lot of interest? Yeah,
I mean, so for us, the important distinction to make, again, is that we have a whole line of products that are not CBD, right? So in particular, our hydration products, which are really our hero products that get the most attention. And there's a large appeal to the female population from our products, not just the male, because in particular, our sport drink is sugar-free. We're trying to take sugar out of families' diets. And so we have a sugar-free sports drink, full of electrolytes and vitamins and all those things without any artificial preservatives or food colorings or dyes or anything like that. So that product in particular has a lot of appeal amongst the female population. And then again, we will and can roll out the CBD influence into that product line at the right time. So for us, I know I'm not answering your direct question about the CBD demand in female sport, but what we do notice is that with our core line of products, in particular the hydration, we speak to mom a lot who wants to put a healthier alternative than the traditional sports drinks, which are full of sugar and food coloring and dyes and all these things that are harmful to our health. We're giving them a healthier option for their families.
What struck me as very interesting with your brand with BioSteel, and it's somewhat analogous to the finance industry. Oftentimes in the finance industry, you're coming up with a new investment product, investment vehicle, and one of the largest indicators of authenticity to it is the managers, everyone behind it, actually investing in it as well, putting their money alongside with everyone else. And that's kind of what struck me about this. I'll call it, maybe it's your best kept secret, is the fact that you don't give your product away. I mean, your product is bought. Like, can you talk about, like, from what I understand?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I thanks for bringing it up. I mean, a big part of our story and our authenticity is the use within pro locker room. So we all know that large companies will sponsor and pay, not only give free product to teams, organizations, or athletes to use their product. Over 70% of major North American pro sports teams purchase BioSteel, and so that's impactful. That's meaningful to us, that they are willing to see the value in our products and trust what they're putting in their athletes' bodies, and they're willing to come pay for our product, and even sometimes put it in the vessels of some of the competing brands. Having said that, as we want to grow, particularly within the U.S. market, we are going to be doing some more large-scale marketing initiatives with some of these teams and some sponsorship deals. So you'll see our presence that way as far as our brand awareness goes. But yeah, to speak to the authenticity, whoever's watching, you're very likely that your favorite sports team sends us checks and pays for the product that we put in their vessels for their players.
How do you see kind of walking that line with BioSteel and youth athletes and youth sports? There's, again, cannabis for adult use, medical. How is it tying in with youth sports? Yeah,
so it kind of ties back to what I was speaking of earlier, as far as really trying to provide the world with a healthier alternative than what's out there. We do feel like we're doing a great thing by providing a much healthier, sugar-free option for hydration to youth athletics. So we try and encourage that. We do some interesting programs. We have the BioSteel Patch program, where we sponsor hundreds of youth sports teams throughout North America. And we have many other initiatives where we do that. So we try and get as grassroots as we can, and as this healthier movement to sports hydration continues. And again, as it pertains to the CBD conversation, we do believe that we will earn that trust from the market when they realize that the quality of our product and the efficacy of what we're doing. And then at the right time, we can roll into that CBD conversation where we now have that trust in our brand and who we are. And where do you think the leagues are going to come out on this? You ultimately see this as the league accepted. This is it. This is the next generation. This is where it's all going to go. Like, how do you? I do think so. Yeah. I in my experience, so I've obviously lived on both ends of this from being in the locker room. For the most part, the vast majority of professional teams have trainers, strength coach, nutritionists that are going to do what they can to try and provide their players with the best options and the safest options available. So I do think that's where things are going. I think everybody's doing their due diligence and as they should. But once permissible, we'll be ready to provide them with highest quality product. A little bit of a tangent here. The one thing I've seen with you guys is the hashtag. It's just the truth. Tell us about that a little bit. Yeah. So my partner's he's a marketer, and so he comes up with all that stuff. John does, and it's just the truth was born out of our brand story. Was basically it is this kind of what we like to think of as this best kept secret in pro sports, and you have some of the major brand names fighting this kind of even a media war now of who they endorse and how they market their products. But the truth is that there's a really nutritious, healthy hydration and supplement line that's being consumed by the vast majority of these pro athletes, and that's us. So that's kind of where It's Just the Truth was born out of. It's just an incredible space. Globally, what do you think? Like, is your strategy? Obviously, you're here in Canada. You're in the U.S. What's your aspirations? Are you going kind of country by country, continent by continent, sport league by sport league? We do have some global strategy. The majority of our resources right now are committed to U.S. expansion and growth. We're currently executing distribution that will blanket the United States. That's not to say that we're not still focusing in Canada, where we are, and we have huge growth opportunity in Canada, but a large commitment to the United States, and we're currently executing this distribution that will blanket the whole country and will create the brand awareness to support it. And so it's a fun endeavor. And obviously with deals like Patrick and DeAndre recently, and we have another release coming out next week with regards to some more endorsement and sponsorship, and then should have a release coming out in mid-October as it pertains to our distribution partners. So all very exciting stuff, and U.S. expansion is where a lot of resources are being committed right now.
That's awesome. At this point we should probably turn it over to the guys at SALT and see if there's any Q&A from the audience.
Thank you for a fascinating conversation so far. So, Michael, what hockey team did you support growing up? Are you're a Toronto guy through and through?
I grew up in Toronto, and I have a lot of friends and family that have that disease of the blue and white. I was a Leafs fan growing up, sure. Yeah, I wasn't like a diehard, but I did like the Leafs growing up. But I learned to kind of like and respect a lot of different players. I was a big Pavel Bure fan for anybody out in Vancouver, and
Russian Rocket.
Yeah, and then when the Detroit Red Wings brought in all the Russians too, I like the skill game, so I was a big fan of all those guys. So yeah, where are you located?
So I grew up in North Carolina, the hockey hotbed of North Carolina. So naturally, they brought the Carolina Hurricanes down from Hartford. I live in New York now, so my in-laws are big New York Islanders fans, but I'm a staunch Carolina Hurricanes fan. So the Hurricanes bring a little bit more of a skill game to the table than the Islanders, who play the Barry Trotz, defensive wall.
Yeah, I played for Lou Lamoriello in Jersey, and he came over to the island and quickly put that in place. There's a lot to cheer about if you're an Islanders fan this year, though. That was an exciting one.
So we have an audience question that's come in now. Is how do you think the market will grow in the CBD sports drink area, and how do you see it affecting the sports drink market in general?
I don't see too much cannibalization there. I think it's on us. It's on the brands to effectively market and delineate between the two. I mean, they're different need states, and you can be pretty specific in that. I don't want to kind of divulge all our strategy as far as how we're going to target the CBD market when we do, but I do think there will be growth. But the growth will come at the mainstream retail level when leagues make it permissible, when you're able to have usage and endorsement through the major leagues, when the certification bodies like NSF decide how they're going to certify the products.
Well, when we were sitting here doing this talk, Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, tweeted out, "Legalize it." So you at least have some movement in the right direction.
Yeah, and I mean, cannabis in general, for me, I wasn't a user till a few years ago, and now find great benefits from it. So we really look at it as, from a sports angle in particular, and for everybody, as a health and wellness play, and we're going to always try and provide what's going to help people with their health and wellness.
So the next question, audience question, is how did the company come about with the partnership that you have with the Brooklyn Nets? And do you think there's going to be other big name team partnerships coming down the pipeline?
So yeah, the Brooklyn Nets relationship was one that was made sense for us geographically, and there was some connections there that made the deal come about, and we were really happy to execute that deal. So we like these types of deals. We think they're going to help us in these markets. So New York's obviously an important market, and we're big fans of what the Nets are doing. So that's why we did that deal. And the answer is yes, there will be more of those deals. We're executing them as we speak. So we do like those deals.
And we have somebody on the talk who's clearly a little bit more of a novice in the cannabis CBD space, and they're asking what's the difference between cannabis and CBD. And they're also asking, do you produce your own CBD or do you buy it? And what are the sources for quality CBD?
Sure. Yeah. So CBD is Jason's probably better to answer this than me, but I'll do my best. CBD is a derivative of hemp or cannabis. And on a personal level, I find the benefits to be anti-inflammatory, help with relaxation and focus. That's how I've found they've helped me. As far as our source, one of the reasons we did the deal with Canopy Growth, it's the world's largest cannabis company. It gives us the resources to use our own stuff and the resources to have clinicals and trials and all the things at our disposal that will allow us to produce the products at the best quality.
Sort of one of the arguments for legalization is to, streamline nationally regulation around quality control and things like that of all the products that are going into these other products.
Yeah. And so, I mean, again, that for us, when we were deciding to go in to entertain this space, it was important we picked the right partner, and we feel more comfortable now than we did even when we did the deal that Canopy was that partner for all those reasons. There's just a lot of resources and truly a world leader in the space.
Fantastic. Well, everybody go out and try some BioSteel if you haven't already. It was great to have you, Michael, on the talk. And Jason, thanks again for hosting. We've gotten a lot of interest in the series, not just from people who are familiar with the cannabis industry, but people in our network who might have heard about it and have learned a lot from the series. And we look forward to future talks. And Michael, hopefully you can come to one of our in-person events here in the near future once we're allowed to have social interaction again.
Great. I'd like that. Thank you, everybody, for having me.